Welcome back, everyone, to the weekly Armchair Sports Talk. This is the Talk of the League podcast, talking all things Premier League. I'm joined by William today, who's a very happy Arsenal fan. How are you doing today, William?
I am doing very well. Very well.
I thought you might be. And of course, Keane joins us as well. Obviously, we will dissect a lot of things. How are you doing today, Keane?
Very good. It's refreshing coming on after a win, because I suppose
it makes a change, doesn't it?
It makes a change, because so many times last season I was coming on with this with a lot of apathy and a lot of just negative vibes. But actually, it feels grand coming on after a win, and it's like, I suppose, a performance that is something that we haven't seen in many away games in the last 2 years, really.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that's where we'll start as well. I'm going to make William wait to go about Arsenal, and for me and Keane to really dig in about Liverpool. Of course, though, the game week isn't finished. There's an absolutely rotten game of football on just now between Villa and Nottingham Forest, which could be 0-0, and if both teams got 0, they would be lucky. But certainly for me and Keane, a happy Sunday, weird kickoff time. Man United defeating Everton at Goodison Park, and if you looked at the scoreline, you wouldn't think it was that comfortable. But I think if you watched the game, Keane, would you agree with me that it was a pretty comfortable performance, maybe until the last sort of 10 minutes?
Yeah, I think it was a comfortable game. I think, look, if you compare the performance at Goodison Park last season to last night, it was chalk and cheese. I think we kept their crowd, their fans down a lot. It was uncharacteristically quite a Goodison Park. Last night, I thought we kept possession very well, compared to last season, where I think we ran like 10k less or something like that last season than Everton at Goodison Park. So to really kind of I suppose, keep their fans quiet, keep the ball, let the game settle down, and really, I suppose, respond after conceding early, it was very refreshing to see, because last season we seen so many times under Ollie and under Rangnick that anytime we conceded early, we conceded a couple of goals in tow away from home. But it was great to see us settle the game down, get a grip of the ball. Look, props to Ronaldo. Hasn't played much Premier League football in quite some time, and gets a 700 goal. And just a shout out to Matt as well, because he said if we go 1-0 down, we won't come back, and we won't be able to deal with the crowd. But yeah, look, GOAT does GOAT things,
Yeah, absolutely. No, like you say, Ronaldo, I think when he came on, he played better than he has done in the last couple of weeks anyway. I think he offered a bit more. He's obviously a great player, a fantastic player, but I think he offers, especially that Man United side, when Rashford's in the form that he's in. I thought Anthony had a good game when he's playing like that, when Bruno's playing how he is. I think just to be something completely different, he acted as somewhat of a target man as well late on yesterday. Obviously won the flick on for the Rashford goal that should have stood. William, from a neutral's point of view, do you think there were positive sides? Obviously, I said last week on the breakdown, basically before the Europa League game, that I think Man United are 2 years away from where Arsenal are, and I see a lot of similarities in these early performances for Man United under Ten Hag that were for Arsenal under Arteta. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, to be fair, I was thinking very similar from when we were about to play, that you're getting performances that were quite similar to how we started, if not half a year on from when we started, a little bit further ahead than when we started. But yeah, I feel like your team's doing quite well. Obviously, it was important to get that equaliser from Anthony very quickly on. Obviously, after going 1-0 down, it could have been a whole different game. But once he got that equaliser, there was no doubt that you're going to get a second. And when you went ahead, Everton were never going to break you down. They were never really promising any real threat until the last couple of minutes, where that's something you have to improve on, is controlling the game when you're ahead in them last minutes.
Yeah.
But that'll come with confidence as well. And obviously, you've been conceding a few goals in the last 2 games. The City game would have had a knock-on effect. And obviously conceding 2 on Thursday, even though you got the win, wouldn't do the best of confidence. But to see out the game, even though you conceded early on, will give that defence a bit of confidence in terms
I think as well, just on what William said there as well, Greg. If you look at the way Everton really smothered us and they went 2 up front, they went 4-4-2, and it was really backs to the wall in that last 10 minutes. I think you have to kind of commend Ten Hag for like making the 2 substitutions in McTominay and Varane when like really I think Martinez and Lindelof were struggling, and if he didn't make them subs, I'd say Everton would have scored. So I think tactically as well, he done very well there.
Absolutely, and I think making that change to bring on McTominay and things like that and to shore it up, I think he learned a lot from the Brentford game and the Brighton game. When teams come at you in this week, you can't just sort of stick to what's happening because they will eventually break you down and score. So I feel like he's learning lessons every week. I feel like he learned something from he says he learned many things from getting pasted by Man City. I'm sure he would have learned things by conceding 2 to the 4th place team in Cyprus. But I was overall quite happy with the performance. I didn't think Man United looked in trouble at all until, like I say, the last 10 minutes when they're hoofing balls into the box. I always worry because it's De Gea. I remember De Gea a few years ago, the game, I think we drew 3-3 with Everton, I think it was, and there was a ball come over the top in about the 95th minute, and any other keeper comes out and stops it, and he just let, I think it was Calvert-Lewin, get on the end of it and put it in. And I always worry when balls go into the box since De Gea, but I thought he even showed his class yesterday as well. Richard says here, better team now than we were a year ago. Stats back this up. Wins against teams we lost to last season. We have more points. Players running more and definite improvement. What do you think of that, Keane? Especially the running more part. Obviously, that's been something that's been a point's been made of since Brighton. Can you see the team working harder?
Yeah, especially I think in midfield they're working a lot harder. I think the fullbacks are covering space a lot more compared to last season. I think it's again that you have to commend the manager for that, for I suppose making them players run after that Brentford game. Like it was absolutely scandalous to like running 10k less than them bums, to be quite honest. Like to be completely and utterly honest about that. I know we're gonna talk about Brentford later on, but like if you really look at last season, you look at like how we lost games. Some of it was down to lack of quality, but a lot of it was down to lack of work rate, lack of desire. And then you have the little Twitter kids who talk about aesthetically pleasing players and this, that, and the other, and all that bullshit. When you actually
just at Shane, it's fine. You can just at Shane, it's okay.
No, but like you have to look at people who look at players like Donny van de Beek to come into the team because he's very pleasing on the ball, and you look at all this crack. If you really look at it, like you look at the players that were in the team last season, they didn't work. Like Joe Wan-Bissaka, he wasn't running back as much as he used to when he gets Kyle position. Luke Shaw, for the life of him, wasn't running back. You know, you look at Harry Maguire, he'd lose the ball. He can't run anyway. But like if you look at just certain players in the team, there were so many gaping holes, and we weren't capable, of covering these spaces. Where you look now, he has Dallow in there, who is an absolute workhorse. Now, where he lacks quality, he has work rate. I will say that. You look at Joe Martinez, great ball playing defender, but also quite quick, and he works really hard. And I think just the overall attitude of the team is just much better than it was last season. And look, there is a long way to go yet. There's a lot of football to be played. And look, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm very excited. I think we're going to win X, Y, and Z. Look, I think we have to take it, because it's such a weird season with the Winter World Cup, and there's so much football to be played, especially between Europa League and the Premier League. I think we just have to take it one game at a time, and really just try to build on these performances, try to gain some confidence. Because I think that this Manchester United squad, I think if we really look at it, there's still a lot of characters there who I think are confidence bearers. And I think, look, they have a great manager and great coaching staff who are very attention to detail, and they will help improve these players and improve their mentality and improve them in terms of quality as well. But I think there's just a long way to go yet. And look, where it's good now that these players are running now and that these players are picking out results, I still have the slight concern if we lose 2 or 3 games in the bounce that they revert back to the tribe that we seen last season. There's still
hero ball from Bruno and stuff like that.
Yeah. Like I think having players like Casemiro in there will help. Having that mentality in the dressing room, like he's won it all. He's done a lot. I think still, like regardless of Cristiano not playing, I think still having him in the dressing room will help. So like I think the managers needs time. I think the players need time. But look, I think at the moment, take it one game at a time. Let's just hope Joe, we can get results and hope that Joe others around us at the moment who are struggling continue to do that.
No, absolutely. And you mentioned Casemiro. I'm going to come to you on this, William. Because again, I'm going to draw a comparison to Arsenal. I feel like Arsenal didn't improve until their centre midfield started to improve, and hopefully this is what Man United are aiming for. Ellie says, was that the first real glimpse of the reason why Casemiro was brought in after all the criticism? Thought he showed his class. Obviously, apart from his mistake for the first goal, I agree with that. Do you?
No, like, I don't know. I'm a bit wary of Casemiro still in regards to, I think, pick and choose what games you play him in. I don't think you have to worry too much against the likes of Everton, against some of the lower sides. But I wouldn't be playing him against us, or I wouldn't play him against Liverpool and some of the higher presser teams where there's more fast impact.
Teams will run all over him, I feel.
Like, he's definitely got the mind and he knows where to be. Like, it's not doubting his ability as a footballer player, but you sometimes wonder if the legs are fully there, which they kind of have to be in the number 6 position, which he'd play. Now, look, he's had a tough enough start from fans, and just kind of rightfully so. You're Man United, you should demand the best, but overall what he'll bring to the side will be vast amount of experience, and he'll improve the rest of the players around him by giving them the rest of the knowledge as well. So he's a good player.
I agree. I thought he was good after his mistake. I thought the assist to Ronaldo was obviously really good, but I thought in general he read the game well. I just think he was going to be caught out with a bit of pace. I don't think he expected. Again, it's going to be something he's going to learn from the league, is everyone's going to close you down. The game's a bit faster. You're not going to get 5-6 seconds to turn on the ball. You just
Do you think in the bigger games, Greg, that he William mentioned it, because obviously if you look at the City game, we played McTominay in his own in there and he got pressed and he was overrun in there. Do you think maybe in the bigger games we might see maybe Casemiro and McTominay in there as a two?
I don't think you can play Casemiro and Eriksen against a high action midfield like Arsenal. If Liverpool were playing how they play City, I don't think you can. Brighton, evidently, I don't think you can play Eriksen and Casemiro because there's not enough work rate. Like I mentioned yesterday, I thought Dalot was struggling so much yesterday at points because he wasn't used to not having a player so touch tight to him. I think McTominay gives Dalot a lot of support as that inside route. And when Casemiro obviously isn't as mobile, he's not going to chase a lost cause to go out to the right back to offer a solution. Whereas McTominay will run everywhere and sort of cover those spaces and half spaces. So, yeah, I think Casemiro and McTominay for the big games, and then Casemiro and Eriksen will do for the lighter. But I'd play Casemiro as much as you can, even in this first year, 18 months. Just get what you can out of him because, like William said, with his age and stuff, like you never know. If he gets one bad injury, I know he's not had injuries, but he gets one bad injury at his age, he might not be the same player again. So I just think you use him, and when he's available, he plays, and when he's fully fit, he plays. Quick thoughts on Everton, and then we'll obviously move on to Arsenal. I didn't think Everton were that good yesterday at all. For all the hype that they've not been hard to break down, I thought Man United, who in general are a poor team at breaking down teams, they play on the counter attack. I thought we created 2 or 3 genuine chances. But yeah, do you think they're still okay in terms? Do you think there's worse teams around them, or do you think they're in trouble? Because I don't think they're that good. I think there are worse teams, but I don't think they're for all that. Like I know they hadn't conceded that many goals, but like their expected goals against was third bottom. And the same way with expected goals again, it always comes true. They'll always come to fruition eventually. It'll always work itself out. So if you're expecting to concede a lot of goals, unless your keeper's playing a blinder, you're going to concede a lot of goals.
I look at their midfield. I look at certain players. Look at Onana. I like the look of him. I thought he was very good, very physical. He has a presence in there. I think Idrissa Gueye is a good signing, but I'd be worried for him because the thing about it is they don't create enough. And if I look at obviously getting Calvert-Lewin in there, like if they can go more direct with their approach when he gets back fit, maybe that can help them. But when I seen him last night, like especially after going 1-0 up, I thought they would have really pressed us and really made it difficult. Now they didn't make it difficult the last 15 minutes of the game, 15-20 minutes of the game. It didn't really get too difficult then. They have work rate. They have a lot of work, they have a lot of workman-like midfielders in there, like Idrissa Gueye, Onana, and then if you look at James Garner, he's actually a creative player, and I'm wondering will he get more game time because he's very good from set pieces and stuff like that. If you look at the set piece threat they have in Cody and Tarkowski, Like, I think...
Yeah, and obviously you got Calvert-Lewin, who I will agree, when he came on, he did cause problems. But Calvert-Lewin's a good player. I just don't think they create enough for him.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. Like, if they need to create more chances, I'd like, if I'm obviously I'm not an Everton fan, but if I'm looking at James Garner in there, he's a very creative midfielder, and he keeps the game ticking.
Yeah.
Like, maybe there's no need for 3 defensive minded midfielders in there. I know, like, Iwobi's in there, and he's doing okay in there. Could they maybe put him up to the wing? Like, do you know what I mean?
He looked good. That's the first time I've sat and properly watched Everton this season. Iwobi looked good. He was everywhere. Absolutely everywhere, but he does need some help. He can't do everything for 90 minutes.
And that's what I'm saying. Like, even Matt saying in the comments there, Gordon is muck. Like, in that case,
rotten.
if you push Iwobi out to the right and you put Garner in there for a more creative spark, and then you have Iwobi's work rate where he can be still everywhere on the pitch. He can tuck in midfield when Patterson comes back, and Patterson can be that, attacking right full as well. Yeah. So, like, it's not all doom and gloom for Everton, but I think I think they're still a bit away from challenging top 10 in the league. I still think they'd probably finish in around maybe 13th, 14th, in and around the end of this season, just because I think in midfield they're still a bit short. And look, in defence, like they're okay. I think Tarkovsky and Cody are good centre halves. Mikolenko's all
good.
Like, Mikolenko's okay as well. But like I still think from a creative aspect, they still have a lot. They don't have a lot there. Like, they have Garner and they have a couple of others like who are okay. But
I fear if Iwobi gets injured, like what Ailey said, one big injury. If Iwobi gets injured, because are Nigeria at the World Cup?
I think so.
Yeah, there.
Like, if he gets injured, I don't know what they would do. Like, because I didn't see much else being.
Donny van de Beek back on loan.
Just quickly, do you agree with that? Do you agree that Everton will be absolutely fine, but they need a bit of spark?
Don't get me wrong, they definitely need a bit more spark, but the way I see it is they've got a bit more to them than some of the rest of the teams, even lower. I'd say they'll even finish ahead of like the likes of Leeds, who I think are in a bit more trouble than they would be. The way I see it, if you have a stronger defense, you're more likely to stay up than having a poor defense and a decent attack, because you're more likely to hold out for the 1-0 wins and make your home ground a bit more of a fortress. I'd say they'll be fine, but there's definitely a lot more to work on.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I think they'll be fine as long as Iwobi stays fit. I think if Iwobi stays fit, even if, as much as I rate Garner and he comes in, I just don't think there's enough there to create, and they might struggle come the end.
Think about it, he hasn't much Premier League experience, so I think like it's the same thing where United had their concerns about him. I think he can maybe come in for maybe 10, 12 games in the season and start and play well. I think he's still young. He'd probably be overexposed if he played too many games.
Yeah, and he's great under Lampard, one of the greatest English centre midfielders. Like, if there's going to be a guy you're going to want a progressive midfielder to learn from, why not Frank Lampard? He'll definitely benefit from being there. I agree. I don't want him to start every game.
Yeah,
because he's young, he's raw, and he's only really done it in the Championship. So, yeah. Anyway, so we're going to move on. William will be very happy. We're going to talk. Let's see if I can find the comment. Richard said Arsenal were very good against the Dippers. I absolutely agree. I thought Arsenal. I'll talk for a bit and then I'll pass over to William, who can gush about his team. But I thought Arsenal were excellent yesterday. Most of it, I think there was a little lull after the goal. For about 20 minutes. I even put in the chat that they needed half time. Just because Liverpool were all over them, they were starting to get into the game a bit. I think they were giving Trent a lot of room to go forward. I think their midfield were actually getting on the ball and getting the turn, but majority of the game, Arsenal were excellent, played really well. Martinelli caused Trent problems all day, although I'd back my chances to do that right now. They created chances. Saka, I think, has had his best game in a little while. Does a lot selfless work for the team, but actually got his reward with a couple of goals. Xhaka looks like a different player to the one that I saw even against Man United. I think he struggled a little bit in that game, but in general, he's so much progressed as a player from the last 12 months. And the title, I believe it's the title on Twitter, Arsenal are the real deal, and I genuinely believe that. They're a very, very good side. And it might only be one big Norwegian striker that stops them from winning the league. So, William, I'll come to you. What are your overall opinions on your team? Obviously, you're very happy, but what were your thoughts on Saturday? Sunday?
I was happy enough. Now, obviously, I was I was in a bit of shock when we went 1-0 up in 1 minute, if I'm being brutally honest, because I was a little bit nervous. Obviously, Liverpool in the history of the game, obviously, it had been a while since, well, we beat them when they won the title, but that's a consolation game, and we knocked them out of the Carabao Cup maybe a few years ago. Whoopee shit. But yeah, when we went 1-0 up, it was like, oh, okay, there actually might be a bit of a mentality change. Then, obviously, I wasn't happy with the first half, if I'm honest. Like, I expected us to, because they only had 2 players. Yeah, they had the front 4, but they had only 2 players in midfield. I expected Partey and Xhaka and Odegaard kind of to take control of the game a little bit more and stop them getting on the ball. We let Thiago have too much of the ball, and it was a bit unhappy. And then, like you said, we were hoping for halftime to come just to hold on to the 1-1 draw that it was at this stage, but then once we got the ball back, we countered attack as ruthlessly as you can hope for. And obviously Trent made that stupid piece of defending, expecting him to burn past Henderson out the side. But hey, it leaves us to a lovely goal.
Yeah.
Look, I was
delighted. Days.
What's just happened?
He's just scored an absolute screamer. But anyway, go on.
Is it? Okay.
You don't see that every day. No, I was delighted then with the second half. I felt like we were overall in the basis of the game. We were the better team. We looked like the better team throughout the majority of it. And yeah, I would have been happy with a draw, but obviously I'm going to be delighted with a victory. And getting a victory when necessarily a draw would have been fair it's what you have to do if you want to be in any sort of title chase. Although when City of Haaland, is there ever a title chase?
No. Do you think that would have been? I would have thought, personally watching it, and obviously I watched the highlights a couple of times because watching Liverpool get beat and watching pundits cry about Liverpool get beat is the funniest thing in the world. But based on the game, I don't think a draw would have been deserved. I think maybe the couple of, I think if you break it down in moments, obviously you had the Gabriel handball, which is, I personally don't want that to be handball. I thought the Jesus penalty, okay, soft, sometimes they're given, sometimes they're not given. So maybe, yeah, in moments, there was enough moments there, but I think if you actually watched the game and watched the flow of the game and how it went, I'd have thought if I was an Arsenal fan at the end of that and we only got a draw out of that, especially that second half, Liverpool basically played like Stoke football the second half. You ever seen them go more direct? I've never seen Liverpool be forced to go that direct.
No, we definitely stopped them from being what they want to play, but I still feel like we didn't create too many clear-cut opportunities either, except for the goals that we scored and then we got the penalty. You know, there was the Xhaka one they flicked over the head and then kicked over the bar, which was a bit of a shame. There was the minutes just before the penalty incident, obviously, that we were knocking on the door, but it never felt like we created that clear-cut opportunities except for the goals.
Do you agree with that statement? So Ailey's obviously an Arsenal fan. Sense of, oh no, not again about the game, like expecting a slump because you've had one in the past how many years, but the team is hungry and actually quite a force. Is that sort of how it felt when you went 1-0 up? You're like, oh, well.
Yeah, well, when we went 1-0 up, it was like, oh shit, yes, they actually do have something about them. And because before that game, you're always going to have that sense of, whenever you've got your own like bogey team, you've always got a sense of, oh, can we do it? And can we do it? And obviously, the media are always going to say, oh, they haven't played any big teams. What happens when they finally face the big teams?
They faced teams already, like.
Yeah, I know. We faced we lost. We faced Tottenham, we won. You know, now we faced Liverpool and we've won. You know, they're showing what they can do, but it's just, you've just got to keep it moving. You've shown your capabilities, and we have a few players knocking on the door to keep going, but hey, on to the next game. Let's go beat Leeds and, well, Bodo/Glimt first, but hey.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, you're top of the league, so you're not going to sit here and complain. Keane, what were your thoughts before we rip apart Liverpool? What were your thoughts on Arsenal yesterday? Were you impressed? Because I thought it was a very impressive performance from them to go and do that to Liverpool.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I thought it was a very good performance. They started really quickly. They were on top. Like, Martinelli was really sharp. I remember when we went to the Arsenal game at Old Trafford last season.
Yeah.
He was lightning. He was fucking brilliant.
So fast.
Oh, he's brilliant. He was very good. And it really reminded me a lot about that performance, how he just kept taking on the right back, kept doing it. He was really good. I really like Tommy Asu at left back yesterday. He played really well. I've only seen Mo Salah being pocketed a couple of times in my lifetime, and that was one of them. A left back yesterday, he played really well. He was tremendous. Even like William knows I hate him, but Granit Xhaka was even good in midfield yesterday. Like, you know, I give him his props when it's due. Like, he was very, very good in there. Look, if you look at Arsenal performances in the past, and William will probably agree, in big games when they've been on good runs, in the big games they faltered. But this season is different. They seem to be playing well in the big games, and they're getting results. Obviously, look, barring the game at Old Trafford, but like, look, if we be really honest about it, like, outside of like Arsenal and City at the minute, United are probably one of the most informed teams in the league. So like, it was not a bad result, you know. So like, Arsenal are doing very well, and considering, like, if you look at the pressure that Arteta has been under, in previous years, he's done well to kind of really, I suppose, have steady, you know, progress, and the team is getting better. Like, you're seeing signs of a very good team, and look, their transfer business was fantastic, you know, in summer, and they've done very shrewd business. So, like, I'm interested to see how they really kick on now, because, like, look, they have a Man City team on their tails. Like, we all know they've a striker up there who was just an absolute freak. But if Arsenal can keep these results going and they keep playing well, then look, they can challenge City. My only concern with Arsenal is when, like, this congestion with these fixtures really pile up, and if they get one or two injuries like a Saliba or Gabriel Jesus, like, can they cope? I think that's the only question I have, because I think they've shown that they can do it in the big games now, with a fully fit side. I'm just concerned if, like us, if we lost Varane or if we lost Eriksen, like, we'd probably have a similar problem, you know. Like, that's why I'd be interested to see, like, if Jesus or like a Saliba, like, two of the probably best players this season, if they got injured, like, how would they cope? Like, you know, does Ben White go back in centre half where he's been playing really well?
He was good yesterday. Ben White was really good at right back.
I'd be interested to see kind of what happens there. Like, if they do face a bit of adversity, which they haven't this season, they've blitzed more or less everyone.
The only time that I'll be worried about that is obviously the one time we got an injury to Partey. Obviously, then we went to Yi, and then we lost. That's our one loss, is when we lost that one pivot. That number 6 position is where we definitely don't have any depth. You see, when you say if we lost William Saliba, yeah, it would be a loss. But I still feel like Tomiyasu can play centre back. You can push Ben White back into the centre back position and play Tomiyasu right back. I feel like our depth is decent enough in defense. In Cam, it would be fine. And even Eddie, I think, showed he can do a job up in the striker position if Gabriel Jesus got injured. It's only that number 6 I'd worry about.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. And like, and yeah, you're probably right. You've got, in terms of defense, because obviously Tierney didn't play or didn't start because he's not always fully fit. But if Tierney was fit, you could put Tierney out on the left, Tomiyasu in the right, and White back in the middle if it was like a Saliba or a Gabriel injury. I'm still making my mind up whether I prefer. I still think Ben White's a better centre back than Gabriel. Still think he's more composed.
Personally, I think so as well. I think Gabriel's making he's making nearly a mistake every single game. Don't get me wrong. He does do his best to make up. He does do his best.
He's good, but he's making mistakes.
Yeah, like he's making up for the mistakes, but at the same time, I'd rather you not make the mistake and not have to make up for it. That's why I wouldn't mind seeing Ben White maybe in centre back and Tomiyasu right back. But then again, Gabriel is left-footed, isn't he? And then you want the right-footed and the left-footed. That's why I do understand it. But look, there's a little bit of room of improvement. But if Gabriel's our worst centre-back, then I ain't going to complain, considering what we had a couple of years ago with Mustafi and David Luiz.
That's very true. Very true. And now, obviously, moving on to Liverpool. I'm just going to get that up because it will be part of what is said. But Liverpool, again, yesterday, obviously, awful, I think. Not the Liverpool team that we've seen. They're in a real slump of form. I was confused that they decided to put that they thought the same formation that beat Rangers would have challenged Arsenal. I thought it was really naive. I thought it was a really strange way to go about it. It's like, oh, well, this clearly worked. Yeah, you're facing Rangers. I've watched them lose to like Motherwell 3-0 in the last 3 years. Like, it's not the best. It's not the best marker to lay down, but well, this worked through the weeks. This is what we're going to do. Of course, Trent Alexander-Arnold not wanting to defend, not able to defend. I think he is able. I just don't think he wants to. Van Dijk not looking how he is. This Liverpool team are really stuck, and I don't know how they get out of it other than a rebuild of some kind, because the whole team's going to get old together. Players like Salah, as much as he signed a new contract, is not going to stick around to play Europa League football. Van Dijk's not going to stick around and play Europa League football when teams would take him. I just don't know what happens. And I think what so much of yesterday, and especially like even on, obviously not mainstream media, but things like Twitter and stuff, everything about Liverpool losing was the fact that the referees were awful. I think there was maybe two decisions that they could have one decision they could have a genuine argument about, and the penalty, they would want it at their side too, because he's been kicked. The handball is here or there. We don't know what handball is, especially this weekend. The Rashford one not being given, the Antonio one not being given. So, like, I think that's their one genuine gripe. But everything you went on was just a shocking performance from the referee, and I was like, no, shocking performance from your team. Like, I don't know what they do. What about you, Keane? What did you think? Obviously, I know what you think in terms of they've been this season, but how do they get out of it? How do they? Where do they go now? They obviously can't stick 4-2-4.
Oh, they can't. Like, if you look at the way Trent is playing in defence and how vulnerable Van Dijk has been this season and their struggles at left back, it'd be absolutely naive from Klopp to go 4-2-4 now. Like, especially when you look at like the fact that the lack of legs in midfield. Like, when you look at Henderson and Thiago, like Henderson can't get about as much as he used to. Thiago is not a defensive-minded midfielder at all. And then you look at like, you know, Trent is not defensively disciplined at all. Like, when I seen the lineup yesterday, I was like, wow. I was like, right, look, they're looking to score early and re-kill Arsenal. That's literally what I was thinking. They're literally looking to get an early goal to kill the Emirates and hoping to do that. That's what they were hoping to do. Now, when you look at Arsenal's midfield and the way Arteta's system is, that was just an absolute stupid mistake from Jurgen Klopp. Absolute lunacy. When you look at the way Arsenal played, like Liverpool are in a situation now where their performances are actually gradually getting worse. So when you've seen the Fulham game at the start of the season, look, people thought that might be an anomaly, but they looked very vulnerable. They came to Old Trafford and got absolutely pasted. I know we won 2-1. They got absolutely pasted at Old Trafford. Got battered. Absolutely battered at Old Trafford. They got battered yesterday. Like, people, if they want to talk about referees and that, you can have that delusion all you want. You really can. But like, they have an aging team. They've had 7 really good years under Jurgen Klopp. 7 really good years. What happened at Mainz and Dortmund after 7 years?
Yeah.
You know what I
just
mean?
think 7 years is a long time to have a squad, and it doesn't, not actively built it. He's gone, this is where I'm going to build around, and the squad's going to get all together. Like, the midfielder he brought in to replace Henderson 2 years ago, or to replace that, was Thiago, who was ages with Henderson. Like, or a year older. It didn't make sense. He's not. And like, obviously, they spoke about the Tchouaméni thing in the summer, and that Liverpool have been looking at him for 18 months. So why didn't you get him last year before he was going to be competition? If you liked the look of Bellingham before he left for Dortmund, you were a Premier League challenging team at that point. He would have joined you. Like, it's just have a bit of knowledge about what you're doing. Like, they need, and it shows. I'm going to big up Fergie here, but it shows how good a job he did. Fergie, to be dominant that long, he built squads as we won things. And that's what City have done. I think City have built squads as they've won things. Okay, they've spent a lot of money doing it, but they've got a lot of money to do it. So why not? When pieces don't work or pieces are getting old, things drop out and drop in. Like, the one time they didn't do it is they played for a year without a striker. Still won the league at a canter. And yeah, I probably agree with that. They're mentally drained, but at the end of the day, no one lost those games for them. The Premier League, okay, City won it, but the Champions League, they didn't turn up.
And in them 2 cup finals that they won as well, they didn't score a goal.
Yeah, they won them on penalties.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't... I don't understand. Like, I don't understand where this sympathy comes from everyone, because it's Klopp's and Liverpool's doing. Because other teams have shown they're able... And for me, it looks like... From who they were playing, Arsenal look like a team that are willing to build as they go. But to me, it just strikes as a team that's gone, Klopp's gone, okay, these are the pieces I'm going to build around. I'm going to have Robertson, Alisson, Van Dijk, Henderson, Firmino, Salah, Mane. Mane's gone, but here's 6 aging players, and the rest will just fit around them. Yeah, but now all 6 of them are getting old together. And all 6 of them have played 6 seasons, as Matt said, of really high energy football, but not a lot of reward. And if we're honest, for 7 years of football, for the way they're spoken about, they won a Premier League and a Champions League. And maybe they won a couple of domestic cups.
The League Cup
The
and
League Cup and
the
FA Cup last year, but they were the first domestic cups. Klopp
They were
won.
the first domestic cups, and they've won a Premier League and a Champions League. In what's been described as like a Klopp and Guardiola. It's not a Klopp and Guardiola era. It's a Guardiola era. It's a Guardiola
era. Europa League final, lost 2 Champions League finals as well.
Exactly. Like it's a Guardiola era that's been blighted by a season where Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool were very, very good. But
like if you're talking Premier League era just alone, they're literally there with Leicester and Blackburn because they won 1 Premier League title, 1 main Premier League title. Like if you be brutally honest about it.
You can push teams close all you like, but they were one of the ones taking the piss out of Spurs when they pushed Chelsea close. Because Spurs probably made a DVD about it, but it doesn't really. Like I don't understand why they get so much sympathy for a problem of their own doing. Do you agree with that, William? Do you believe it's their own doing?
I believe like it is their own doing in the sense that they've never brought in the players to replace some of these. They've never built upon. Yes, they've been very lucky through injuries as well. Like none of their key players got injured and they helped hide it. But one year they got a couple of injuries. Van Dijk got injured and all that. All their centre backs went. They nearly missed outside the top 4. So you would have thought that the owners and director of football and everything see that. It's like, oh shit, we better build a few places around. But it's odd to say. It feels like he's never been truly. Yeah, he's been back. He's bought some great players and everything, but they've never pushed the full way. It almost feels like our board when we had Wenger and it was like, oh yeah, we're just happy to get top 4. Like it never feels like they're fully happy to back to know what they need to take them to. It feels mad to say the next level when they nearly won a quadruple, but to actually take them over the line and actually win things, you've got to spend a lot of money nowadays. It's the brutal fact. You know, we may not like it. You may see it as buying the league, but at the end of the day, it's what you've got to do to compete. You've got to have great squads.
Like William's right there, Greg. You're competing with a country in Manchester City. That's literally what you're competing with at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. But it doesn't mean you can't do it, and it doesn't mean you can't be smarter with your transfers. It doesn't mean you bring in a 30 or 28-year-old midfielder to replace a 28-year-old midfielder. Like Matt says here, Everton fans, City would have won 5 straight Premier Leagues, but Liverpool would have won 5 straight. Yeah, but City were there. It doesn't matter if they nearly done it, or if they maybe would have done it without this and without that. Like they were there. And Liverpool knew at the start of every season that City were going to be there and going to be a challenger. So if they wanted to challenge, they should have challenged. They should have built, or they did challenge obviously for a few years, but they should have built for this. Like I said for the last couple of years that Guardiola could walk out the door tomorrow and City would still be successful because their whole system is now just set up to just run for years and years and years. And every sporting director, they're creating their own coaches now to go out, and like Guardiola's got his own like Guardiola disciples, and they're going out and they're Ten Hag's won, Arteta's won, Nagelsmann's won. Like it's crazy the fact. I get what you mean without them, but they knew they were going to be there. I don't think they've been as impressive. I think they've done well in points and things, but to win 1 Premier League in 7 years of Klopp, would count that as a success massively.
A Premier League that has an asterisk beside it because
it doesn't have an asterisk. It's just fun. They still won the games. It was just funny because they didn't get to celebrate in front of anyone.
They didn't get to celebrate, but like no, if you look at that, like who's going to remember that? Who's really going to remember that?
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because look, it happened during COVID. Like literally, they like. Do you know what? I'm not trying to take the piss out of them here, but I kind of am. But but. Who's like, in all honesty, like let's just not just take my Man United hat off for a minute, right? Who's going to remember Liverpool winning that title? Bar like the few, you know.
There'll be Liverpool fans that remember it, but it's in an era of like Klopp, of like Pep dominance. Pep will win the Premier League this year. He'll probably win it next year, and if he stays on, he'll win it in years to come as well.
When they compare Jurgen Klopp to Sir Alex Ferguson, I thought that was such a like disrespectful remark. Like if you're comparing anyone, if Pep keeps going, I think maybe yes. You know,
Pep's
like
getting close. He's getting closer. That's all I'll say. He's getting closer. He needs a Champions League or 2. to get there, but he's getting closer.
Yes, and
It's mad because they build for the Champions League and they just win the Premier League as they go. It's mental. It's really strange. If you'd offered last year on that final day, if you offered Pep and Klopp to swap places, like we'll be in the Champions League final against Real Madrid and you can have the Premier League, Pep would have taken that. Like they build for other competitions. William, question: do you think Arsenal win the league again before Liverpool do?
Ooh. Depends what they do next summer. That's all I'll say. It depends. I think.
Well, they have Klopp
I think it's
next
possible.
summer.
I think it's really possible. I think we can get one in the next 3 or 4 years with the squad we have if we keep them right. Yeah, I think it's entirely possible. However, we don't realize actually what this is just Klopp playing chess. Really, all he wants to do is go into the Europa League to try and win that to complete a set with Liverpool. You know?
I get what you're saying there, Matt, in terms of like City spent massive, but United spent massive and pissed it up the wall. So I don't really take the argument. You can spend big and you can also not spend big and still be successful. Like
Liverpool talk about net spend, but Liverpool spent 75 million Van Dijk, 65 million on Alisson,
85 million on Uruguay and Andy Carroll.
Yeah, 100 million on fucking Nunes. No, not even that. 70 million on Naby fucking Keita as well. Liverpool spend money. Liverpool spend money. I don't get this myth that they don't spend. They fucking spend. They just have a low net spend, but they still spend fucking money. 100%.
But they sell well, and they sell shit like Rhian Brewster for £18 million. Like, how do you get that?
90 for fucking, was it 30 or something?
Yeah. Like, do we think Klopp will last the season?
Depends how they do in the Champions League. If they get knocked out in the group stage, he's gone. That's going to be my wild comment to say. If they got knocked out in the group stage, which you never know could happen, then he would be. But I think they give him a bit of respect to keep him. But, you know, you have to see how the season's going. But if they did, who would you replace him with? There's only one guy that I can think of.
Thomas Tuchel,
wouldn't it?
Oh, 2 guys, fair. Yeah, Tuchel, I'd say, would be the best one.
They need help defensively, and I think Thomas Tuchel could go in there. If anyone can improve Trent Alexander-Arnold, it probably is Tuchel.
They should play a 5-back, to be fair. Get the extra centre-back in there and let Trent play as a wing-back.
They've no creative midfielders anyway. Yeah. They should go 3-4-3.
Yeah.
They literally should, like, you know.
Matt says their net spend is low because they brought Barca for Coutinho.
They sold Coutinho apparently for £1 billion, apparently.
Oh man, the more he plays for Villa, the worse that signing looks. Like, it just will never be a good amount of money to spend on someone like Coutinho. But I think they'll keep him regardless. I don't think anything would stop. Like, I just think he'll get this season. I think he could walk.
I'll give you a hot take on that, just on your point. I think they don't do well this season. They finish outside the top 4. Probably, I think they'll get through their Champions League group. They'll scrape it like they always do. But they'll finish outside the top 4. They'll get knocked out in the Champions League. He'll walk. Germany will bottle the World Cup, and he'll walk into that job.
That's a good shout, actually. That would be because that's the job that's always been sort of like thingied for him. Like, you could always come to the Germany job and stuff. And Flick, is it Hansi Flick that's there just now?
Yeah,
they're pretty disappointed in him by all accounts.
While they're at it, can Spain do terribly and they get Pep Guardiola, please?
I don't think that's going to happen. I think Pep will. I just think he'll stay.
I think Pep's going for Fergie's records, isn't he? He's going for Fergie's records.
What would this be? Would this be 6 Premier Leagues?
Yeah.
Damn.
He only has 5 more leagues to go, like. You know?
Yeah, won 5 of the last 6. This will be 6 of the last 7. So maybe 7.
If he got this one, he'd be the only one to match. It'd be the 3-peat this year, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you would.
So you're relying. So let's sink in that you're relying on us to stop him reaching that 3-peat of a Fergie record.
Yeah. So if you could just not, if you could just keep like being this good and not like of last. I said to Ailey last night that I think you just sort of stay on top until Haaland decides you don't, and then like beat what's around you, and then when you play City, just wait and see what happens. Like,
Just throw 11 men on the goal line and just hope he does.
Let's be fair though. When we played City last year at home, we should have beaten them. You know, it was that stupid red card. So I think at home we give them a good game. Away from home, the way Man City are playing at home this season, the lowest they've scored is 4 goals at home. Whereas in their 4 away games, they've won 2-0 and drawn the other 2. So there is the tiny bit of weakness there from away from home. I've got to cling at some hope.
Matt asks, is he playing a game? Back me or I'm gone? Probably, to be honest. But I think it's too late now, because even then he's not going to get 8 players in a year. Like, it should have been done.
I think under FSG, Liverpool will find it very hard to win another league. Because if you look at the investment, they want the maximum return for minimum investment. They're actually like the Glazers very much. They won't put much more money in. They'll just want, like, to use the money that Liverpool generate. I think if you look at what they bought Liverpool for, it was well under $1 billion. It was a couple of $100 million they bought Liverpool for.
Yeah.
And Liverpool are now worth, like, similar to what United are worth. They're worth a couple of billion now. I don't think if FSG look at it, they're thinking they're just going to try to suck as much money as they can out of that football club, similar to what them parasites do to us.
Well, and they're not part of the Super League, didn't they? For that exact reason.
Yeah, they wanted to go to the Super League, exactly. So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, people can talk about certain owners coming into this league, and to be fair, I look at FSG and what they've kind of lowballed Klopp in the last couple of years, especially after they won the lockdown league. Like, they really should have really capitalized on that and really wanted to build another squad.
I thought it was mental they didn't allow him a midfielder in the summer.
Yeah.
I thought it was insane. Like, I don't care if you've spent 80 million on Nunes. You've not paid that all up front, surely. Surely you're doing that in installments. And then you can go and get a midfielder. Like, obviously, it might not have got Tchouaméni, but they could have got somebody. Surely there would have been someone.
They could have got, and even they could have got Caicedo. They could have got Declan Rice. There's other midfielders out there.
They could have got Frankie.
Frankie de Jong, yeah.
They would have got Frankie. They absolutely would have. Champions League team, Barcelona need it. They're paying big money. Just why not? I don't see I don't know. It's just strange. I agree with Matt. I think he walks before he's sacked. I think he's got too much pride and he's done too much to actually be sacked. So sort of what William said, that he's got sort of credit in the bank, but it's funny. It is funny. So we're going to move on to our last game. Obviously, I wanted to talk about this for a couple of reasons. Brentford, of course, winning the league back in August by beating Man United, which is really happy for them, but they brought back down to reality a bit in the last few weeks, and I thought I watched the game earlier. I think it must be like 45, 50 minutes of bits from the game, like almost extended highlights, but lots of different things in it. And it just looked so poor. Like, from a Brentford point of view, I don't think they've been great this season, apart from that Man United game. But the mistakes they make, and I made the point in the chat to you boys earlier, I want this myth of ball-playing goalkeepers to please leave and go away. Because David Raya was at fault for 3 of their 5 goals because he's a ball-playing goalkeeper. And this thing that all goalkeepers have to be able to just pass out from the back and can't go long. If he'd gone long on 3 of those attempts, they wouldn't have conceded 3 goals. And they'd have still been in the game. And the goal that was offside probably shouldn't have been offside for Brentford's point of view. So there we go, that's 2-2 and you've got a point. But my God, it was bad. Like this. And we've had this conversation as well, Keane, about obviously with Shane about De Gea and things like that. And it's like, give me a goalkeeper that saves so much more with his hands and is a donkey with his feet, can only kick it long, rather than someone like that's just tapping it short. Because he's not even a great shot stopper, but his inability to change up how he plays out is just ridiculous. I don't know if you saw any of it. Any of the goals conceded.
I've seen the highlights. All right, it was very poor by Brentford, and one of their worst performances I've seen since they've come up to the Premier League. Yeah, look, I think you're right. I think the problem with some goalkeepers is they go short too much. Like, if you just look back at when we played Brentford, I said, like, I got slated for it at the time. The hair should have went long just for them particular situations when the press is tight. Sometimes you do need to go long to relieve yourself of the pressure. Like, you know, I think everyone wants to be a Man City, don't they? They want to play out from the back and they want to they want their goalkeeper to get on the ball. And sometimes you
It says there Ederson's known for his passing, but you don't. She's right. Like when Ederson, when he's praised, is when he clips the ball 60 yards into the feet of De Bruyne. It's not when he taps it short to his left back or plays a stupid pass to his centre half.
Yeah, that's it. Like the goalkeepers have to be streetwise. They can't always go short. Like I think everyone's trying to be a City and Ajax that play out short, and the goalkeepers almost becomes that sweeper. Like, do you know what I mean in terms of coming out and playing with the ball? I just think again the quality of goalkeepers dropped massively in general in the Premier League in the last kind of decade. You see goalkeepers like Petr Cech and Edwin van der Sar, goalkeepers like that who are top. They could play out from the back, but they also, like, Van der Sar was brilliant at going long. Cech was brilliant at going long. It's just I don't understand these goalkeepers wanting to be centre halves.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I don't understand how they can just want to play it short the whole time. When look, that's not your job. Your job is to save shots. And look, if the short pass is on, it's on. But don't always do it. Don't overdo it. And that's what goalkeepers are doing. And Raya was culpable for them chances on against Newcastle. But look, Brentford got their cup final at the start of the season when they beat us 4-0. And I'm Greg, you're being very nice. I'm not going to be. There was a lot of their fans piping up on social media and slagging off one of our contributors on here for actually giving an honest opinion, and his opinion got taken well out of context. If they actually listened to the whole podcast, they actually was seen that he praised Brentford's performance. So like they can take their 4-0 in glory all they want. They really, really can. But if they keep if this one continues, they're going down. They're going down, and you can watch that 4-0 game against us all they want. At the end of the day, Thomas Frank needs to wake up now and really readjust his tactics, because they're after getting found out in the league. And if you look at other teams around them, like the West Hams and the Evertons of the world who are in and around that area of the table, they're going to get better because they have better squads, they have bigger budgets. Like Leicester will get better. Leicester will come up the table. They might be floating around 17th. I don't think they get relegated this season.
No.
Like them teams will get better. Brentford do not have the squad. Brentford just lost Christian Eriksen. Brentford have lost a lot. Like, they've lost a very good player, and they've also got found out in this time. So, like, I liked what they done last season. They played very well. They're a breath of fresh air, but look, when you're in the Premier League, you have to adjust. You have to evolve. Brentford haven't done that, and it's all well beating Man United 4-0. But look, I'll be honest with you, lads. United lost about 26 games. Well, in about 26 games, they won about. Before that game, there was about 8 games United won in that time frame in all competitions. And to be honest, in all them games, we probably got battered as well. We were probably one of the worst teams in the league on form before we played Brentford, if you look at the form table. So you bet a Man United team that were just, Eric Ten Hag was looking to see what his team was. Well, where are you now?
Oh, I agree. They certainly are struggling. They've got an air of Sheffield United about them, coming up playing so well and then just being rinsed. William, as a fan of a team that has obviously benefited from going to a keeper that can play out from the back, what did you think of? Obviously, you're going to have a different opinion, I would assume, because your team have highly benefited from it. But what do you think of Brentford and sort of what went on? And do you think a bit on the goalkeeper argument as well?
Now on the goalkeeper argument, like, there's a fine mix. It's kind of what Ellie said in the comments, like, about Ederson. He's known for his passing lumps out by 80, 90 yards. Like, everyone would say, like, we've Ramsdale, who's kind of a better passer out for the back and everything like that. However, against Liverpool, you look at most of his distribution was going long because we knew the front four were going to press and press. So you bypass that press by going long. There's, again, like you said, there's being streetwise and not just passing it for passing's sake. Everything's got to be a purpose. And when I looked at Brentford earlier on in the season, I thought, yeah, they're in a bit of trouble. Then they have a few good results and a few good games that you think, okay, no, maybe they should be fine. But they're such a strange team. You even look at last season before they signed Christian Eriksen, like they had a few good games. Everyone raves about them. Bang, they play about 10 games there and they have terrible performances, lose a nice amount of them games or get sneaky draws.
Like Eriksen kept them up last season.
I just don't help them.
Like, I don't know, they're hit and miss. I mean, you look at them this season, they've only won 2 matches. And that was 4-0 against E and 5-1 against Leeds. You look at them, when it goes right, it goes amazing.
Yeah.
But like,
you're going to score goals against Leeds and you're going to score goals against a United side that are that poor.
I mean, other than that, they drew to Leicester, who aren't the best. I mean, they drew to Everton, 1-1, who aren't the best attackingly. Crystal Palace didn't have the best of form. They drew to them. Mm-hmm. We went to them and absolutely destroyed them. Yeah. Like, we stopped them having absolutely anything. And then, I mean, they drew 0-0 to Bournemouth, and now they've lost 5-1 to Newcastle. If you look, they were getting points off of the teams that were lower and down on a bit of confidence. But if you go at them and play them and stop them from playing, you can get results against this Brentford side.
And also, Ivan Toney is probably going to be bought after the World Cup because he's going to get into that England squad.
I think he's awful. But I would say now I would rather have Timo Pukki in my team than Ivan Toney. Honestly, Ivan Toney brings a presence. That's it. His finishing is rotten.
Unless from the penalty spot.
Yeah, pretty much.
Great penalty take.
Pretty much. Yeah, but he got 10 goals last season. 5 were penalties, or 6 were penalties. Like 4 or 5 or 6. So he's got 5 goals in open play as a striker that played 32 games in the Premier League to a team that finished, 14th? 13th? And he only got 4 goals as their main striker. It wasn't like they were rotating every... Like, I just don't rate him. I don't think he's that good. And I just think he gets a lot of hype again because he's English. But you're right. He will get bought. He'll go to... he was linked with Arsenal for a while. He won't go there now, but he'll go somewhere. He'll go to somewhere and be a backup.
I wonder if he go to Spurs. Well, I know they have Richarlison.
Oh, Matt.
That.
Bring up Matt's comment here, please.
That's awful.
That's such an awful take. Like, that's
horrific. Martial's just unfit, but when he's on the pitch, he's good. He just can't stay fit. Tony's just woeful.
It depends what style of football you want to play as well. Martial will get you more goals, and Tony's better holding up the play and trying to get others back into play and
actually
things out that way.
Martial's actually.
I think Brentford were better though once Eriksen came in and Tony went forward because he wasn't having. I don't think his link-up play is that good either. I think he was just doing donkey work in the middle of midfield. He was just flicking the ball on to no one running on. I don't know. I think there was I don't think Newcastle looked at that game yesterday and went, "Oh God, sorry, we'll let him go." I don't think he was great. Quick word on Newcastle. Do we think they're obviously getting better? How long do we give them until they're in the top 6?
They're one of them teams that you think can break it with 1 or 2 more signings, maybe. Like they'll almost challenge for it, but they're just not consistent enough yet. You know, I just think, I don't know, like in my predictions before the season, based on the form, they were my team to finish ahead of the team that I thought would be the most out of form, which was United at that time. Which before the season, you have a right to think that because you were playing terribly.
That's
but
fair.
Now you think that they could be a team that finishes at a Liverpool, possibly. You know, they are one of them run teams that are close to it, but they'd need one of the other teams to properly drop off like Liverpool are at the moment.
That's very fair.
And I just want to address Matt's comment here. Like he says,
he still scored more than Tony in 10 games.
Exactly.
I'd rather have Martial for 10 games than Tony for 38. Like, just absolutely would. But no, I agree with you. I think Newcastle have been very, very good. I thought they were really good at the weekend. Obviously, they took their chances and got a bit of luck, but but they're scoring goals. Who'd have thought a Newcastle team score goals? Remember a few years ago when they just got nils and ones every week?
And who can forget the most clinical goal scorer for him at the moment? Miguel Almiron.
Oh, man. He took that shot when he cut inside on his left foot after running about 30 yards. Like, you're going to put this like top bins. Honestly, thought he was, but just
you've got to give Eddie Howe some credit at getting the best out of bang average players in a way, because you look what he's done with Joelinton, you've looked what he's done with Almiron, like in the last few seasons. You've got to just say fair play. It's almost the way he's doing with Almiron. You could almost think it's what he did with Ryan Fraser at Bournemouth.
Yeah,
how we got him to the second most assists. Like he has a way of doing things, and it's working.
Does. And they've got a Champions League quality centre midfielder in Bruno Guimaraes, who's just. How did he not go to someone like? How did he end up at Newcastle? How did Champions League not look at him and go? He'd do.
He was linked with us so much that summer. It's a little bit sickening he wasn't there for our squad depth in replacement with him and Granit Xhaka midfield role. If you look at that attack and mid, like it would suit so well. Yeah,
absolutely would. He'd be a really good. Yeah, you might go back in for him, but he'd be worth
a lot more.
Now. Be a little bit more now. Perfect. Well, I think that's where we're going to wrap up. Unless Keane, you've got anything else you want to say? Anything you want to plug on the channel coming up? Anything you need to?
Yeah, we do have our Ammonia preview Wednesday for the Europa League rematch from the entertaining 3-2 last week. So do make sure to check out that. Check that out. We'll also have our Newcastle preview. I'm debating whether Friday night or Saturday. Because the Saturday I like the Saturday morning shows. They're actually quite good. So I'll have to talk to Mark about that one. Look, we have more shows coming up. Obviously, the wrestling podcast as well.
The basketball show might be back next Friday.
Yeah, basketball show as well.
Next Friday. We're in the middle of discussing that. It's either going to be this Friday or next Friday. There's obviously a lot of shows on a Friday, so
look, we'll see about that one. Look, with United in Europa League, Greg, I'd say you'd be doing the Friday anyway. Like on that as well. Like, look, we've all basketball, we've done wrestling, all the football. Like,
it's been boxing, covered it all.
Yeah, like, look, William is also might be shadow boxing after watching Erling Haaland and against Arsenal. You never know. We might get a live performance on the weekly armchair. You never know. So, look, do like, share, and subscribe. We literally are covering all sports. Jamie McCoy's trying to push me actually to do a boxing pod. So there might be a special guest that's involved in boxing coming on the channel soon. I'm not going to reveal all yet, but there's a predominant person in boxing who's also a Man United fan coming on the show. So that's all I'll reveal on that one for now. But thanks very much everyone for watching. Thanks for Greg for hosting tonight as well. Thanks for William for coming on, especially after his fight the weekend as well. So look, hope everyone as well. Hope you all have a good week. And look, let's just all revel in the demise of Liverpool Football Club. But until then, guys, thanks very much, and we'll see you later.